boys and girls, and assembled company. Welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe. And it is Friday, so it is stories for children of all ages. That is 0 to 100. And because it's never too late for a 20th childhood. And so, but we have with us all the way from India tonight. I'm glad she told me, or as I'd have said from Tanzania. But in India at this very moment, Maia Ganatra, and she is going to regale us with magnificent tales. So over to you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Okay, so I thought I'd do stories around kings and kingdoms today. Sir, Mr. Louis, I see now. Is it not King Louis anymore? Okay, so Sir Mr. Louis. Lovely to see you here. And Terry, hi. Okay, so I first thought I'd start with a lovely poem by A. Milner, which is called If I Were King. I often wish I were a king, and then I could do anything. If only I were king of Spain, I'd take my hat off in the rain. If only I were king of France, I wouldn't brush my hair for ants. I think if I were king of Greece, I'd push things off the mantelpiece. If I were king of Norway, I'd ask an elephant to stay. If I were king of Babylon, I'd leave my button gloves undone. If I were king of Timbuktu, I'd think of lovely things to do. If I were king of anything, I'd tell the soldiers I am king. So the first story I have is the story of the kingdom of the East and the kingdom of the West. So once upon a time, a long, long time ago, there were two kingdoms, the kingdom of the East and the kingdom of the West. Now, these kingdoms had been at war for as long as anybody could remember. They'd always been fighting, but nobody really knew what the fight was about. Some people suspected it was the jam. The people in the East thought that strawberry jam was the best, and the people in the West thought raspberry jam was the best. And some people got so tired of the whole thing, they just stopped eating jam altogether. Now, in the kingdom of the West, there lived an old weaver. Oh, the kind of things that he wove. He wove the most beautiful cloth in both the kingdoms. In fact, that was the only time that the people from the kingdom of the West would come to the East to buy his beautiful cloth. Now, he would go all around both kingdoms and he would talk to everybody and he would listen to all the stories. He would listen to the sailors telling him about mermaids brushing their hair and about sea serpents and about tall mountains. And these he wove into his cloth. And people said that when they wore that cloth, they could hear that mermaid as she sang and she brushed her beautiful hair, and they could hear the groanings of the sea serpent deep underneath the sea as he slumbered. So now this beautiful man who wove such lovely cloth, well, he was getting old and his wife had died many years ago and he didn't have any children. And he had a lot of money because people paid him really well for his beautiful woven cloth. So one day he looked at all the money that he had, bags and bags and bags of gold. And he thought, I don't need so much gold. I only need 10 bags for the rest of my life. And the rest of the gold, I'm going to send it to the princess of the East. And so he asked his friend if he could take if he could take all the remaining gold and give it to the princess of the East. And in return, he could have a little bit of money. And of course, the friend was more than happy. So he took all that gold and went to the princess of the East. Oh, but the king of the East, he was so suspicious. Why is this man sending us money? And he twirled his mustache suspiciously. And he said, this is very, very strange. We must send all that gold back. And together with it, we'll send him a beautiful white stallion. So now the friend ended up taking all the gold back to the poor weaver together with a white stallion. Well, the weaver didn't know what to do. So he thought, maybe what I can do is I can send all this gold and the stallion to the prince of the West. And so that's what his friend did. He took everything and he went to the prince of the West. But the father of the prince, he said, no, no, no. Why is this man sending us money? And a stallion as well. And he twirled his own mustache suspiciously. And he said, no, let's send it all back. And together with that, let's send 2 elephants. So now the friend ended up taking back all the gold and a white stallion and 2 elephants. And this kept going back and forth. It got really silly, actually. In the end, the poor weaver had 5 camels, 2 elephants, and a white stallion, and all his gold was back. Now he was wondering what to do. But meanwhile, the king of the East and the king of the West thought, this is enough. We're going to go and see who this person is who's sending us all these gifts. And so they all came to the poor weaver's house, brought by the friend. And of course, as you know what happens in fairy tales, the princess of the East saw the prince of the West, and their eyes met, and oh, immediately they fell in love. And so it turned out that the weaver ended up bringing the 2 kingdoms together. And they say that at the wedding feast, they had not only strawberry and raspberry jam, but every other jam that you could possibly think of. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, Sir Mr. Louis, do you know what different countries call their kings? Sir Mr. Louis, are you there?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Okay, lovely. Can you do you know what the king or the leader of Egypt was called?
I don't know.
He was called a pharaoh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was called a pharaoh. And in India, they call them rajas.
Ah.
Rajas and maharajas.
Oh.
And the next story I'm going to tell you is about a Raja. Are we ready? Okay, great. So this is a story that my father used to tell us when, I'm just going to pin myself. Okay. So this is a story that my father used to tell us when we were young. And it starts with a little song. पुरी एक अंधेरी ने गंडू राजा टके शेर भाजी टके शेर खाजा. So basically what it talks about is how there was a country once which was ruled by a foolish king, and everything in that country cost the same amount of money. So whether you bought some delicious sweets or you bought a piece of bread, they would all be the same price. Now, one day, a disciple and his guru, a guru is the teacher. So the guru and his student came to this land, and the disciple, the student, went out to beg for food. And when he got a bag of flour, he was able to take that, and he was able to get a dessert instead for the same amount. And he was so happy because he loved food. And so he came back and he said to his teacher, this place is wonderful. Let's stay here forever. Everything costs the same amount. And his teacher said, no, no, no. We can't stay here even one night. Because if there's a king who believes that everything is exactly equal, then he will end up treating the criminal and the just person, somebody who hasn't done anything wrong, exactly the same way. But the student didn't listen. He said, no, 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 I'm getting so many delicious things to eat, so I'm going to stay right here. And the teacher said, okay, well, I'm going to leave, but if you ever need my help, call me. And so the student, well, he stayed there for many weeks and many months, and a whole year had passed. And every single day he would eat all those delicious sweets because they were so cheap. And he had become big and fat. Now it so happened that in the neighboring house, a robber tried to get in. It was a rich man's house. And whilst trying to climb over the wall fell on the robber and it killed him. Well, the robber's mother went to the king the next day. She said, you must give me justice. My son went to steal from this house and now he's dead. And the king, yes, you're absolutely right. Bring the owner of the house, he said. And so the rich man was presented in front of the king. And the king said, that's it, hang him. And the rich man said, no, 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 it's not my fault. This has been the fault of the person who made the house. Said the king. Very well, bring the builder. So the builder was brought in front of the king. And the builder said, no, 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 your majesty. This isn't my fault. This is the fault of the person who mixed the cement. Very well. Bring the person who mixed the cement. They brought the cement mixer and he was trembling and shaking and he said, Majesty, Majesty, it's not my fault. It's the person who adds the water to the cement. He made it too wet. It's not my fault. By now the king was getting tired. He said, that's it. Bring the man who mixed the cement and who added too much water. So the water mixer was brought in. And he said, sir, it's not my fault. You know, when I was pouring the water into the cement, a priest walked past. And when I was looking at him, I didn't realize, and I ended up pouring too much water. That's it. Put that priest and bring that priest here and hang him. So the soldiers, they went and they got this priest. But the thing was that the priest was really, really thin because he didn't eat a lot. And the noose for the hang rope was much wider. And so now the king said, that's it. Bring the fattest man that you can find. And that was obviously the student. Oh, he had become big and fat by now. And so now he was brought in front of the king. And the king said, try his neck. And if it fits, just hang him. Oh, well, the student didn't know what to do. He said, please, please, can I just call my teacher? Okay, very well then. So the student called his teacher very quickly. And the teacher, he came there and he thought of a brilliant idea. As soon as he got in front of the king, the student and the teacher started arguing, hang me, no, hang me, no, hang me. And the king, he was wondering what is going on. Well, said the teacher, today is a very, very special day, king. Whoever dies today will go straight to heaven. Said the king. Well, if that's the case, then I'll just hang myself. And that's exactly what he did. And that was the story of the foolish king. Unda ek nagari ne gandu raja टके शेर भाजी टके शेर खाजा कहाँ जय बढ़िया बेगुरु एक चलो गया गाम माँ मांगवा भिक्ष पहलो. Okay, so does anyone know what the king of West Africa is called? Anyone? He is called the Oba. And anybody know what the leader of Tibet is called?
Dalai Lama.
Yes. And he lives exactly where I live in McLeodganj. Well, or I live where he lives. So, yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you another story. And this one is also set in India. And it's about a king who had a minister who was very, very happy. In fact, sometimes he was a bit too happy. And we'll see what happens. So once upon a time, there was a wonderful, wise king. And all his people were really happy, and he made sure that he was ruling justly and fairly. And he had a minister, and the minister had a very, very positive attitude to life. No matter what happened, he would say, "That's good. That's very, very good." Now, you'd think that would be okay, except sometimes when things weren't going right, and the minister would say, "That's good. That's very, very good," the king would get a little bit upset. Like the time when the neighboring king decided to wage war on him, and the minister said, "That's good. That's very, very good." Oh, the king was not very happy, although he did end up winning that war. And the time when the king's horse ran away, and the minister said, "That's good. That's very, very good." But there was one day when the king and the minister went hunting, and they went deeper and deeper and deeper into the forest. And the king was riding his horse, and the minister was riding his horse, and they were going really fast. And suddenly, the king fell off his horse, and he ended up breaking one of his fingers. Ouch! It was so painful. And what did that minister say? He said, "That's good. That's very, very good." Now, sometimes when we're feeling in a lot of pain and we're really not very happy, and somebody says that, I think it would make us quite upset. And that's exactly what happened. The king was so upset, and he told his soldiers, "That's it. I've had enough of this. Lock my minister away into the prison." And so the soldiers, they took the minister and they locked him in one of the darkest dungeons in the palace. But meanwhile, the king, he continued on his hunt. And as he got deeper and deeper into that forest, suddenly he was lost. He didn't know where he was. And he started hearing sounds of drumming around him. And before he knew it, he was surrounded by tribal people. And they said, "Oh, yes, you will make a perfect sacrifice to our wild god." And the king, well, he started shaking and shivering. And they said, "Let's get him cleaned up, and then we can sacrifice him." And as they started cleaning him up, they saw that his finger was broken. "We can't go around sacrificing you. Look at you. You have a missing finger. It's a broken finger. Our God will be really, really angry about this." And so then they allowed him to leave. And so the king, very, very shakily, he got back onto that horse, and he trotted as quickly as he could back to his palace. This time he managed to find the way. And when he got to the palace, he said to his guards, "Bring my minister out and present him in front of me." And when the minister was brought in front of the king said, Thank you so much, my dear friend. I see what you were saying now. Because of my broken finger, I was not sacrificed to the tribal people's God. And the minister, and I'm so sorry for putting you in prison. And the minister said, that's fine, king. That was good. That was very, very good. Because had I been with you, or my fingers are fine and my toes are fine, then I would have been sacrificed instead of you. So that was good. Okay. Do we know what the leader or the king of Japan is called?
Well, it was an emperor.
Emperor, and also, I just found out today, also a Mikado. Yeah. And Russia. I'm sure Russia we all know. Yes? It's called a Tsar. Yes, that's a Tsar. Thanks, John. Okay, so my next story is about a king with a secret. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in the central part of India, there lived a king. Now, this king, he was very proud of his looks. Every single day, he would look in the mirror and he would dress himself up in the best clothes, and he would wear his hair long, and he would always cover his ears. Now, the reason that he always covered his ears is because he had really long ears and they looked like donkey ears. And the only person who knew the secret of the king was the king's hairdresser. So whenever it was time for the king to get a haircut, he would make sure that he was locked up in a secret room with no windows and only one door. And the king would go through it, and then the hairdresser would come through it, and the door would be shut, and there would be a soldier placed on the outside so that nobody could come in. And even he had to wear earmuffs so he couldn't listen to what was happening inside. And then the king, he would move his hair back, and those donkey ears, they would flop down, and the hairdresser would cut his hair. And every single time that the hairdresser cut the king's hair, the king would say to him, if you dare tell my secret to anyone, I'm going to have you locked up in the dungeons forever. No, no, sir, I promise I won't. But you know how it is with secrets. We need to tell them, right? Otherwise, they just sit inside us and they stir and they cause all sorts of funny feelings. And that's exactly what started happening with this hairdresser. He sat with the secret. The king has donkey ears. The king has donkey ears. And he didn't know what to do. And he slowly stopped eating as much, and he stopped spending time with his friends. And his wife started getting really worried. And she said, tell me what's wrong. I said, no, I can't. If I tell you, then the king is going to throw me into the deepest, darkest dungeon. Now, his wife was a wise woman. So she said, okay, don't tell me, but go into the forest where the bamboo trees grow and whisper it into the bamboo. At least then your heart will feel much lighter. And so the hairdresser said, yes, I think that's a very good idea. And so the very next day, he went off deep into that forest and he found a grove of bamboo. And he went right in the middle, making sure that there was no one around. And he whispered, the king has donkey ears. Can you all whisper that with me?
The king has donkey ears.
Again, the king has
donkey ears.
And the bamboos, they shook and they shivered, and the secret went right into the heart of the bamboo. And the hairdresser, he felt so much lighter, so much better. as we do when we let a secret off our chest. And so now he started eating, he started talking to his friends, he started talking to his wife, and she was really happy. A few months later, there was a big feast in the kingdom. And as was usual, the musicians needed to go and pick some bamboo to beat the drums with. And so they went to that same bamboo grove that the hairdresser had gone to, and they started chopping down some of that bamboo. And do we remember the secret that was sitting within the bamboo's heart? Let's say it. The king has donkey ears. So they cut the bamboo, and then there was the feasting, and everybody was dancing and singing and eating and talking. And then the drummers came in and they started drumming using those bamboo sticks. And as soon as they started drumming, do you know what happened? What did the drum start saying? Come on, say it with me.
The donkey ears. The king has donkey
ears. The king has donkey ears.
The king has donkey ears.
So everybody in the kingdom, they heard the king's secret, and everyone started laughing and giggling. And that king, he was so ashamed. He was so embarrassed. And he said, bring that hairdresser right in front of me, because he's the only one who knew that secret. And now that hairdresser, he was brought in front of that king, and he was trembling and he was shaking. He said, sir, I promise I didn't tell anyone that secret. And the king's wise minister, he said, when there's a truth, it has to come out. So you cannot put the hairdresser into the dungeon. Everybody knows the secret now. Just become a good king. Stop worrying about what you look like, and just start ruling your kingdom properly. And you know what? That's exactly what the king did. He stopped worrying so much about what he looked like, and he started worrying a lot more about what people needed. And that's the story of the king with the donkey ears. Okay. Just trying to see. Okay, do we know what the ruler of Iran was called? He was called sorry?
Hi, wasn't it Maharaja? Hi, love. Was it
Maharaja? Maharaja is India. He was called the Shah. Good. Yes, right, John. He was called the Shah. Okay, and I'm now going to tell you a story about one more king. Long time ago, there was a rich and prosperous kingdom, and this was ruled by a great king who had one thing that he loved more than anything else in the world, and that was the honey that was found on the slopes of Mount Kilimanjaro from Tanzania in East Africa, which is where I come from. This was such special honey that only very, very rich people like the king could afford it. And every single day, that king would take that special pot of honey and he would spread it on his toast, and he would go crunch, crunch, crunch. Oh, that honey tasted so delicious. Now, one day, the king was sitting near the window with one of his servants. And as he spread the honey onto the toast, a drop of that honey fell down, 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 down onto the pavement in front of the palace. Now, the servant who was with him immediately said, King, king, shall I go and wipe up that drop of honey? And you know what the king said? He said, no, that's not our problem. Just keep on polishing the golden dishes. And so the servant, he polished the golden dishes, and he kept looking down below, down, down, down. That servant had really good eyesight. And he kept polishing the dishes and he kept looking down, and he kept polishing the dishes and he kept looking down. And he saw a fly come to that drop of honey. And that fly, it washed its nose and it smelled that honey, and it was the most delicious honey that the fly had ever smelt. And it stuck out its tongue. Oh, yes, this is delicious. And thinking that, he immediately gobbled up that one drop of honey. And then he just sat there washing his face and just thinking, oh, that was the best honey he'd ever had in his life. But what he didn't know was a lizard had been watching him. And now the lizard slowly came up to where that fly was licking its face, and the lizard pounced on the fly. Uh-oh. What? Said the king. Sir, sir, a lizard just went and pounced on the fly. I think we need to do something. Shall I go and shoo that lizard away? No, that's not our problem. Just keep on polishing those golden spoons. And so the servant, he kept on polishing the golden spoons, but he kept an eye down, 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 way down below. Remember, he had very good eyesight. And suddenly, he saw a cat that had been sunning itself slowly creep up. And the lizard, who had finished eating that fly, didn't see the cat. And the cat slowly crept up and pounced on the lizard. Oh no, sir, sir. What is it? Said the king. Sir, there's a cat that just jumped onto the lizard. I really think we should do something. Look, I told you, that's not our problem. Just keep on polishing the golden forks. So the servant, he kept on polishing the golden forks, but he kept an eye down, down, down below. And a dog now came up. And the dog and the cat started fighting. And they were fighting, meow, woof, meow, woof, meow, woof. And the servant, sir, sir, that's not our problem. I already told you, just keep on doing your work. So he kept on doing his work. He kept on polishing the golden forks and the golden spoons. And now the owner of the dog and the owner of the cat, they came and they started fighting because their cat and dogs were fighting. And now all the people who were supporting the dog owners and then the ones who were supporting the cat owners, they all started fighting. And oh, that servant was really, really worried. Sir, sir, I really think we need to do something now. I really do. This is getting really bad. Look, the army will come and sort it out. It's not our problem. Just keep on polishing the golden knobs on the doors here. Well, okay. So the servant, he kept polishing, but he kept an eye down below. Now the army people came in. And now the army as well. Some people supported the dog lovers, some people supported the cat lovers, and the army started now getting involved, and everything had started becoming so chaotic, and people had started arguing and fighting and throwing things and crashing things, and oh, it was a complete mess. And this fighting went on for 7 days and 7 nights. And by the end of it, when it was all over, everything was destroyed. Those beautiful fields, the houses, the cars, every single thing had been damaged and destroyed. And now the king, he turned to the servant and he said, you know what? I think that was our problem. That's the story.
Fantastic. Well, what a set, a king size set. And brilliant, brilliant. So, well, we got, well, I think one more round of applause for Maia. Marvelous, marvelous. Such wonderful stories. Now, what have we got coming up? We have a week coming up, a fantastic week coming up in the cafe. Wednesday at 7 o'clock UK and Irish time, which is probably far too late for India. Well, you can bet you can start up at midnight if you want. There's a kind of open mic. It's Tales and Tunes, which Justine Demir runs, and she used to run it live in a pub in England or in Suffolk. But she's now gone online with it, so people can. It used to be just people from Suffolk used to come in, and occasionally on Facebook Live. Now she's doing it both on Facebook Live and here. So there'll be. It'll be lovely. It'll be if we had. Anyone can come on and tell a story on it, or sing a song, or play an instrument. So it's 7 o'clock on a Wednesday. It's always the first Wednesday of the month. Tales and Tunes, and. Waleed, if you can get there a few minutes early, that'd be great, because I know we're having the huge computer problems at the moment in Marrakesh, but our genius who flies the magic carpet always comes out undefeated. And then next Friday, I can see her name up there. She's listening, but we can't see her. There she is, Despina Ario. From Greece, we've gone from India one Friday to Greece. We'll go by push bike, I think. Or maybe we have to have an amphibious, but one of those little pedal boat push bikes that are amphibious because she's on an island. And then Sunday, not this Sunday, but Sunday week, of course, is our worldwide story round. So that's on the whatever it is. If the spinner's on the 8th, that'll be on the 10th, won't it? If my memory cells are working, which is I haven't even have a diary here, so I can tell I can say this. So Sunday, March the 10th will be our next worldwide story round. So that's Tales and Tunes Wednesday, the Spinner Friday, worldwide story round Sunday week. Fantastic. Meanwhile, Louis, have a fantastic week. Terry, great to see you. Erlen's iPad, great to see you. And whoever is listening out on Facebook land, listening directly into the cafe or on YouTube, we exist on various platforms, and so have a good week, Louis, and have a wonderful time, everyone else. Bye.
Bye, John.
Bye. Thank you, Waleed, for fighting the technology and getting it going. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, John.
Bye, Louis.
Okay.
Bye, Sir Mr. Louis.
Bye.